Hi, I'm Marc, and on this channel I talk about Brexit and UK politics. As a result of Britain's exit from the EU, many fishermen will be able to catch less off the coast. And the EU has now allowed Germany to support those affected with a sum of 20 million euros. After approval from the EU Commission, Germany can support fishing companies affected by Brexit with those 20 million euros. The aid is intended for ship owners who have suffered losses due to Brexit, as the EU Commission announced. As a result of Britain's exit from the EU, Europe's fishermen will be able to catch less of Great Britain and will therefore have to temporarily shut down their fleets. Anyone who has registered boats under 24 meters in length in Germany can be compensated for a maximum of 15% of the estimated loss of income. For owners of boats and ships longer than 24 meters, the limit is reportedly 10%. The Brussels authority approved the German fishing millions under the so-called state aid law. They are limited until the end of December, and they are financed from the so-called Brexit Adjustment Reserve. The measure is to be financed from the Brexit, I said that with the Adjustment Reserve, but it was set up to cushion the economic and social impact of Brexit, subject to approval under the specific funding provisions of this instrument. And the Commission examined the scheme on the basis of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union, which allows member states to promote the development of certain economic sectors or regions under certain conditions, and on the basis of the guidelines on state aid in the fisheries and aquaculture sector. The Commission found that the scheme promotes the development of economic activity in line with the sustainability objectives of the common fisheries policy and does not alter trading conditions to an extent contrary to the common interest. On this basis, the Commission approved the German scheme under the EU state aid rules. And the Irish Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConnell, also announced two new Brexit Adjustment Reserves funded schemes representing a combined support package of an additional 8 million euros for the Irish seafood sector. And the new schemes are as follows: the Brexit Fish Processor Transition Scheme, which has a budget of 7 million, and the Brexit Fisheries Cooperative Transition Scheme, which has a budget of 1 million euros. In March 21, Minister McConnell set up a seafood sector task force to examine the implications for the Irish fishing industry and coastal communities, particularly dependent upon it, arising from the Brexit Trade and Cooperation Agreement agreed between the European Union and the United Kingdom. The task force was charged with recommending initiatives that could be taken to provide supports for development and restructuring so as to ensure a profitable and sustainable fishing fleet and to identify opportunities for jobs and economic activity in coastal communities dependent on fishing. The Brexit Fish Processor Transition Scheme will compensate processors that have suffered a reduction in turnover of at least 15% or more in the 12-month period of January to December 21 compared to the average annual turnover for 2018 to 2020. Applicants must demonstrate that this reduction in turnover is attributed to the TCA in respect of reduced supply of species directly impacted by quota cuts and or because of increased operational costs for logistics and administration associated with Brexit. The support is designed to stabilize cash flow and assist processors to adapt operations to the new trading arrangements with the UK. It will facilitate an orderly transition during the time needed for such companies to find alternative suppliers or to implement other structural measures, for example, reconversion to other raw materials or orderly reduction of business activity post-TCA. And the Brexit Fisheries Cooperatives Transition Scheme 2023 is a short-term aid that is required to offset the reductions in turnover experienced by the cooperatives during 2022. It aims to cover losses in turnover directly experienced due to reductions in raw material arising from the TCA-induced quota transfers. Reduced fish sales for the cooperatives means a reduction in the commission received from such sales, thus impacting on the cooperative's ability to operate. Most importantly, it will continue to facilitate an orderly transition in the short term to allow the cooperatives to reconfigure and restructure their businesses in the longer term to adapt to the changed trading environment under the TCA. The cooperatives have indicated they are planning long-term initiatives around the areas of increasing processing capacity on site, added value opportunities, improved logistics, and increased cooperation to secure and enhance their businesses. The cooperatives must demonstrate that this reduction in turnover is attributed to the TCA in respect of reduced supply of stocks directly impacted by quota cuts. The support is designed to stabilize cash flow and adapt operations to the new trading arrangements with the UK. But the UK Treasury could also lose out on £3 billion a year in revenue from the sales of emission certificates. That's according to an industry report on Monday, after prices in Britain's post-Brexit emissions trading system fell faster than in the EU this year. The UK emissions trading system, which was introduced in 2021, works like the EU system it replaced. And manufacturers, energy suppliers, and airlines must pay for every ton of carbon dioxide they emit in order to meet climate goals. And the UK emissions trading system was largely based on the cost of carbon in the EU or traded above the cost. And at the time, Britain announced changes tightening the cap on the system, but at the same time announced that they would release more allowances from a reserve. And since then, the UK carbon price has fallen by more than 40%, while the EU carbon price has only fallen by 18%. But later, the whole picture changed. And so that was just another of those Brexit benefits. A lot of those things will continue, and it was just a small thing I just want to interject because it's a topic I never talked about. The carbon pricing, they said, was expected to bring a loss of £3 billion here. And so not getting away from EU rules is not always the shiny golden lens they've always promised. And Energy UK said, for example, that the introduction of a carbon border tax from 26 on some goods imported into Europe could also impact UK industries affected by the tax if the price difference persists. And the European carbon border tax will impose fees on imports of emissions-intensive goods such as steel, aluminum, and cement, and that unless the exporting country has a similar carbon pricing policy. Yeah, that's, if you're not a member, you have to stick to the rules. And Energy UK said the government should work to link its emissions trading scheme with that to the EU to avoid such penalties. And so diverging from EU rules is not always the great thing, especially when it's still the big market in front of your doorstep and you want to sell there still. You can sell somewhere else, but we have to talk about transport, logistics, and everything surrounding that. So I'm still waiting to see any real Brexit benefits for the UK here. None of the Brexiteers, especially not the hardcore trolls that are posting a lot of nonsense in the comments on the videos, could ever tell me a real benefit. And I don't mean the headlines they are just parroting from certain tabloids. I mean a fact-based comment with a real Brexit benefit, except for British banker bonuses. But if you want to know something else, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.